There is, a military jeep just sitting in a barn in Pennsylvania. It has not been restored, it has not been repainted, it has not been protected. For nearly 80 years, it sat through heat, humidity, freezing winters, and complete neglect. When collectors finally pulled it into the light, something, uncomfortable became obvious. The original olive drab paint was still intact, faded, worn thin in places, but not peeling, not flaking, not separating from the metal beneath it. Now, just compare that to the fence you painted, 3 years ago. The paint is already cracking, moisture is creeping underneath, the surface is failing exactly where the manufacturer promised it wouldn't. This isn't a mystery of nostalgia or craftsmanship. It is, quite simply, chemistry. World War II paint was engineered for permanence, not compliance, not convenience, and certainly not repeat sales. Once you understand the ingredients and the systems behind it, the failure of modern paint stops being surprising. World War II paint was not created for homeowners. It was created for equipment expected to sit in salt air, desert heat, jungle humidity, and Arctic cold without regular upkeep. Military planners did not assume repainting every 5 years. They assumed really no repainting at all. That assumption, shaped everything. Paint was expected to bond permanently, flex without cracking, resist moisture intrusion, and protect metal, even when scratched. Modern paint, it assumes frequent renewal. Wartime paint assumed abandonment. The backbone of pre-war and wartime paint was white lead, chemically known as basic lead carbonate. Its dominance was not cultural inertia. It dried faster than other whites because lead acted as its own catalyst, and it flexed with wood instead of forming brittle films. It leveled itself as it cured, eliminating brush marks and weak points. Most importantly, it resisted water penetration. Moisture did not migrate beneath the paint film, it stayed out. When you see 19th century buildings with original paint still intact in sheltered areas, you are looking at white lead at work. Modern titanium-based paints cover well, but they form rigid films that crack as wood moves. Linseed oil was not a filler or additive. It was the binder that made everything work. Unlike modern latex paints that dry by evaporation, linseed oil cures through oxidation. Oxygen, links the oil molecules together into a flexible polymer network. That reaction actually continues long after the paint feels dry to the touch. The paint, quite literally, strengthens over time. Linseed oil, interestingly, penetrates wood fibers instead of just sitting on the surface. That penetration allows moisture to pass outward rather than trapping it underneath. When moisture escapes, rot slows down. But when moisture is trapped, paint fails. This single difference honestly explains why linseed oil buildings survived for centuries. The United States military's greatest corrosion problem during the war was not bullets. It was, in fact, rust. Zinc chromate primer solved this with chemistry that, honestly, modern coatings still cannot replicate. When moisture contacted a scratch, zinc chromate dissolved just a bit and reacted with the exposed metal, forming a new protective layer right in the damaged area. Each exposure to moisture, it restarted the protection cycle. The coating healed itself over and over again. Modern primers, they protect only until they're damaged. Zinc chromate protected because it actually expected damage. Red lead primer, which was used extensively on ships and heavy steel, did not simply adhere to metal, it reacted with it. Lead oxide formed a molecular bond with iron, becoming part of the surface itself. That bond did not peel because it was not sitting on top of the metal. It was chemically integrated into it. This is why ships coated in red lead survived decades in salt water with minimal corrosion. Modern zinc-rich primers sacrifice themselves, but they never become part of the metal they protect. Linseed oil cures slowly. Wartime production required speed without sacrificing durability. Metal dryers solved this. Lead, cobalt, and manganese compounds catalyzed oxidation without changing the fundamental structure of the oil film. Lead dryers in particular promoted deep curing throughout the paint layer, not just surface hardening. Modern paints rely on safer dryers that accelerate surface drying but leave deeper layers softer and, well, more vulnerable. Military olive drab was not aesthetic. It was specified down to pigment percentages and finish reflectivity. Flat finishes reduced detection. Iron oxide pigments improved ultraviolet stability. The binder ratios ensured flexibility under vibration. The paint was tested against temperature extremes and mechanical stress. Civilian paints are not subjected to this level of abuse testing because they are not expected to endure it. Military paint was never just one layer, it was actually a system, Primer for bonding, an anti-corrosive layer for protection, undercoat for thickness and uniformity, and a top coat for camouflage, as well as environmental resistance. Each layer was, well, thin. Thin layers flex, while thick layers tend to crack. If one layer failed, the others would still remain intact. These days, modern painting shortcuts eliminate that redundancy to save labor, not because redundancy ever stopped working. Lead and chromates are, restricted for good reasons, but the principles, well, they remain usable. Linseed oil paints without lead still penetrate and breathe. Zinc-rich primers still protect better than latex alone. Multiple thin coats still outperform single thick applications. And really, surface preparation still determines longevity more than brand names ever could. World War II paint lasted because, honestly, nothing was optional. Every step mattered. That Jeep in Pennsylvania is not an accident. It is proof of a system designed for permanence. Modern paint fails because, well, it was redesigned to be safe, fast, and replaceable. Understanding what was lost allows you to recover what still works. If this changed how you think about durability, do subscribe to The Past They Hid. Share this with someone who still believes modern means better. And please, keep this knowledge alive. Some technologies were not improved, they were abandoned.